Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to the channel. My name is Niladri Mukherjee and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice here in Guelph, Ontario. We're recording this video around 11:30 in the morning from here in Southern Ontario. It's a very warm as well as a very windy day here. The wind is blowing at 40 kilometers per hour. So I think it's a good time to just have a small conversation with you to let you know about a recent case that we did for a visit visa application for a client that went on to become a super successful one in a very short period of time. No, so just to give you a little bit of context and idea, you know that I always talk about the processing time, and the processing time particularly for visit visa applications, and specifically for those applications that are coming from countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, some parts of the Middle East, as well as some parts of Africa, where the number of applications are generally very high, and hence the decision time, the processing time is quite long as well. Now, out of we probably all know it that out of all the applications for visit visa or any sort of temporary residence visa that come to Canada these days are a substantial part of those are from India. So, which is why my objective is to present to you with a case study for a client from India whom we have handled very successfully, and sort of to let how the whole process went, for you to figure out what you can possibly do at your end to make it work for you. Now, at the time that we started this application, sometime in the first week of February, or no, in the second week of February, the decision time, as per the IRCC portal, was showing around 83 days. But obviously, the client came on board, and we had to do our work. We took around we typically take around 2.5 to 2.5 weeks to do everything from our end before we submit an application, because we do a lot of checks and balances at our end. So the client came on board, and we sort of understood his profile. We have a specific process of sending a couple of forms to him. He did, you know, like fill up everything properly. He's an excellent client. He's a very methodical client. Uh, he prefers to do work in a very organized manner, which is amazing. So he gave us back everything, and then we did it on our own completely. We took the complete ownership, and we got the decision within literally, we got the decision in fourth business day after the client completed the biometric, right? So the processing time starts after the day after the client completes the biometric process, the biometric appointment. After that only the processing time starts. So for example, if you submit your visit visa application today, and if you get a biometric appointment after a month, the processing time would be applicable the day after you have completed your biometric appointment. So when my client completed the biometric appointment, the decision time was showing us 93 days. We got the decision in 4 business days, so like 3 days in between. Now, just to make clear from the very beginning that we are not affiliated to the government of Canada. If you come to us for work, we are in no way in a position to prioritize your application. We do not know anybody in the government. We are just another licensed representative that prefers to do work in a methodical way. This may be an exception, but as I strongly feel, as I strongly believe, and I've been saying this for a long time, is that for a well-made application, and I repeat, for a well-made, completed application, the decision time gets influenced positively. So let's just touch upon a couple of aspects for you to understand, how did it go. Before we think of anything, it is very important for us to understand is that an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer is there to only in making sure that your application is being done in a proper manner. But it is you, the client, that is a deciding factor with respect to the success or the failure of any application, be it a permanent residency or a temporary residency, right? Because that's one aspect that nobody can change. So make sure that you are a bona fide visitor. Make sure that in your mind you are a bona fide visitor. Make sure to go through the Government of Canada website to understand what it means to be a bona fide visitor, and then to start basically then starting the process of your visit visa application. So in this particular case, that case the client has been a bona fide visitor, is a bona fide visitor or a tourist for Canada. He has an excellent profile. He's a very well-established industrialist that basically tick marks all the boxes. Now he's a very well-traveled person. Now, as I've said it quite a few times already, that a travel history alone cannot influence your decision. So you may have traveled to 150 countries, yet your visit visa to Canada could get rejected if it's not a well-made application. Or you might not have traveled to any country, yet your visit visa application to Canada could be accepted if it's a well-made application. So there is a Supreme Court ruling that says that a travel history is not an influencing factor in any way for a visit visa application to Canada. And the reason for the judgment was that you have to give an opportunity to somebody to travel, right? If I didn't travel to anywhere else and my first country that I'm trying to visit is Canada, it's not really my fault. It's just that I did not get a situation to travel to maybe any other country. So again, in a nutshell, I mean, the travel history is not really a deciding factor for your visit visa application. But in this case, my client is very, very well traveled. He's a well-established industrialist. He is having sufficient money in his bank account, in all the other investments as well. That would, basically prove his home tie. He has lots of residential properties. But there is one factor that sort of I thought would play a little bit negatively against my client, and which is why we made sure that we submitted the letter of explanation as well as the submission letter very, very strong way, was that my client has had a US visa rejection, right? So again, there is no direct correlation between your US visa rejection to the fate of your Canadian visa, particularly if it's a temporary visa. But what you really have to understand is that there are some information sharing countries. US, Canada, Australia, UK, New Zealand are those information sharing countries. And obviously Canada and US are the biggest allies in the world. Maybe we share over 8,500 kilometers of our border. There is a lot of trade that goes on. We are very, very interconnected, and both the countries look very similar, like very similar. Once you cross the border, you will not be able to realize whether it's you're in Canada or US unless and until you see the flag, as well as the speed limit signs changes from kilometer to mile. That's the only difference, right, visibly. So again, back to the point. My client had a US visa rejection. So that was definitely one of the bummer. That was definitely one of the negative aspects that we had to encounter on. So that's about the profile of the client, and we submitted everything perfectly. We provide, and I personally believe in providing as much documents as practically possible to make sure that the application is strong, to make sure we are able to create a situation, we are able to present a situation wherein the officers do not really have much opportunity to ask us questions if we give all the answers proactively. This is what I tell all my clients that come to us for a consultation as well, that we have to ensure that we are able to provide we are able to present the case in such a manner so that the officers really do not get much opportunity to ask us questions. And in this case, obviously, they do not ask questions, they simply reject the application, right? So make sure to provide, a key takeaway from, for you is, in this case, is that make sure you provide everything, like literally everything what you think should be provided. Now, obviously, it varies from case to case. If you're a salaried employee, the documents that you should provide would be very different from you are a self-employed, from you're a housewife, for example, from you're unmarried, from you're married. So it completely varies from case to case. There is no such specific set of documents that you have to provide. But obviously, if you're working for somebody, if you're a salaried employee, you have to provide a salary slip, you have to provide your income tax return. If you have traveled before, if you have a travel history, you provide those travel history, or anything and everything that you think is reasonable. If you're a self-employed person, established, with an established business, or otherwise, provide as much proof as possible. It is completely dependent on your particular case. There is no such thing like, this thing would work for somebody and that thing wouldn't work for somebody. So this is something very, very case specific. You really have to provide everything that the client asks for from day one. I see a couple of chats coming in, guys. I will answer all your questions. You can just put all your questions here. I will make sure to answer everything. I just wanted to make sure that I am able to present this case. This will not be more than 15-20 minutes. So once I'm able to finish that, I will make sure to answer your questions. I appreciate you writing. Just write your questions. I'll make sure to read it and answer all your questions. Don't worry about that. So yeah, so that's that, and making sure that if you're doing this application on your own, make sure to visualize a case from the officer's perspective, right? What if you are the officer and you would review somebody else's application, right? The basic premise of a visit visa application or any temporary resident visa application, the IRPA sections vary, right? For example, for a visit visa, it is mostly an IRPA, 179. For a student visa, it is mostly 216. But hey, we are talking about temporary visa. Obviously, for a visit visa, you have to prove that you will leave Canada at the end of your stay. For a study visa or for a work permit, you also have to prove that you will leave Canada at the end of your stay. But obviously, for a visit visa, you can stay here for a maximum period of 6 months for most of the countries in one go. For a study visa, obviously it depends on your course and depends on how long you get the work permit for, and all those things. But in the end, the point is you have to prove that you will leave Canada at the end of the stay. So what is that would make the officers believe that you will leave Canada at the end of the stay? That is what you have to figure out. If you have a house, attach the property papers. If you do not have a house, but you otherwise are able to prove that you will be able to leave Canada at the end of the stay, make sure you provide that kind of documents. Now again, which is why I said, so when I work with a client, I provide them with a couple of forms that we have built in-house, and those forms fall as the fundamental basis, or a fundamental, I would say, like a foundation for us to understand the client's profile, which is super important for us, that we understand everything, we visualize everything, and which is also why I rather request everybody, before paying money to us, or rather anybody for that matter, go for a consultation. Talk to the person who will be actually working on your file, understand anything and everything. There are clients that do not want to go through the consultation route. For example, this particular client, he was very, very determined to make to have us work on his file, so he was clear from the day one. But there are clients that are, and it's fine that you're shopping around, you are visiting, you're talking to multiple consultants, you're talking to multiple lawyers. The point you have to understand is that the more and more you talk, the more and more the chances that you get confused, because not everybody is giving you the right advice, to be very honest. I see a lot of YouTube videos as well, quite a few from the licensed professionals, and I'm sorry to say, but I do not agree with many of the suggestions, right? So I will come to one of those suggestions, those suggestions that I hear quite very often in this time, but I will talk about that. But let's just focus on this. So we got the forms back, and then we took a day or two to make sure we are able to provide a customized document set. Now the document set has to be very, very specific. The document set has to be very, very customized to your requirement, in case my client's requirement. Because if one thing is applicable for person A, the same thing may not be applicable for person B, right? So the document list has to be super customized to make sure that the client, my client, or in this case, if you're working on your own, obviously, you can satisfy section 179 of the IRPA that you will leave Canada at the end of the stay, which otherwise means that you will be a bona fide, a bona fide traveler or a bona fide visitor to Canada, right? So that is about the documentation part. Now, obviously, once we get the documentation part, we sort of try to scan through all the documents to see if there is any missing link. Okay, so the person is saying that the person lives with his parents. What about providing an additional photograph? Providing sort of a selfie with the family or anything else. Well, the person is saying that he has 3 dogs. It's not uncommon thing to provide photographs with dogs, right? If the person has a very strong LinkedIn profile, why can't I provide a link to the LinkedIn profile? If the person is an influencer, for example, if the person is doing business in India, for example, in this case, as an Instagrammer, and is primarily promoting brands from India, so why can't we portray that as his like a strong tie that he has to go back to India because his whole and so bread and butter is in India. So on and so forth, right? So it really varies from person to person. But in the end, as I said, section 179 is something that you need to prove. And This time, actually, I'm specifically focusing on India because the rejection rate for the visas from India is super high. I cannot tell you like how high it is, right? This is actually quite weird as to how the officers are looking into the files of Indians. Like I am currently working on a file, and if you're watching the video, you know that I told you multiple times that again a visa refusal application. I'm working for a very genuine client, a very good client from India, from the Indian state of Punjab, where the rejection rate is probably the highest. This person is actually a bona fide traveler, and they are not giving him, her the visa. So that is so. I personally, so for the most part, for 99% of the times, I try to see the file in a perspective from a neutral perspective. But those 1%, when I feel very angry, I feel very bad that he or she is a genuine traveler, but yet you're refusing the application. That is not fair. You cannot just simply copy paste section 179 subsection B, everywhere saying that, well, you do not have sufficient home ties and these and that. And I could tell you for the most part is that they do not even go through the complete letter of explanation, letter of documents. Now there are faults at the client's end as well. Like I will come to it later. So obviously it's a two-sided story. But there have been times when I see, and these days it is quite very often, is that the decision making is being influenced in some way is what my personal opinion is. Right, because when I see a couple of files, I see that the file is actually perfect except for the letter of explanation. Now honestly, I haven't really seen a file with a perfect letter of explanation so far. Or maybe I'm quite picky about how to do the letter of explanation, or maybe I'm quite finicky about it. I take pride in the fact that our letter of explanation is probably one of the strongest, or maybe I do not find them useful enough. I don't know. And frankly speaking, I don't know. But those letter of explanations or the submission letter, or other ways you call it, were not good enough. So that may be the lacking point. But yeah, the point is the documents part. So provide as much documents as possible. If you're applying on your own, you'll probably get two options here. All right, when it comes to the documents uploading section, one you get the purpose of visit, and other you get is probably the letter of explanation. So you have to provide your purpose of visit in one place, and in section 2 you have to upload your letter of explanation. It is important for you to understand, and this is actually, in my opinion, is super important for you to understand, is that the RCIC portal through which we apply for our clients as the licensed representative looks very different from what you get as a common man or as a normal people doing on your own in the GCK section, right? So when I apply for my client, and by I mean any RCIC, when we apply, our clients, we upload documents, we do not get the section of purpose of visit, right? What we get is a submission letter. Now, if you get a section, obviously, if you're doing on your own, you will get a section of purpose of visit. It's a super misconception. I cannot tell you how much it is that, and I saw a lot of videos on YouTube that people say that, make a hotel booking, make a flight reservation, your visa will be confirmed. Now, I tell my clients that we have to apply our common sense, right? For example, in this particular case, we got the decision in 3 days. Like on the 4th business day, we got the decision. But that may not be the true, that may not be the case for every other client. So unless and until you get the approved visa on your hand, how or not you know how long would it take for the officer to give you the visa, right? And then how will you book a hotel booking maybe 3 months down the line or 4 months down the line? If you get the visa today, you may want to come tomorrow. You have enough money to pay for the additional, for the airfare. You have enough money to pay for a business class maybe, and come tomorrow, right? Or you may not have enough money. You want to postpone your trip maybe for 6 months. Depends. The point I'm trying to make is paying for hotels, paying for flights, and if you're doing this application on your own, you might see the purpose of visit gives an asterisk and talk about that you have to apply, you have to attach your hotel bookings, you have to attach your maybe flight bookings, or if you know somebody and all those things. It is really not required. It is actually not required. I never ever do that these days, particularly. We're still not out of COVID for any of my clients. But the common sense is, why would I have my clients paying for the hotel booking, paying for the flight fare without them originally having the visa in hand. Doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to you to pay for a hotel, to pay for a flight? Doesn't matter whether that is refundable or non-refundable. In these days in COVID, we have all seen is that getting a refund from anybody is not easy. I myself had to fight with literally Air Canada for I don't know how many months to get my refund. I was stuck in India when there was a lockdown. When there was a lockdown, happening sometime in March 2020, I was there in India and my flight got cancelled and I was evacuated from India that time. That was story. But the point I'm trying to make is you should not pay for your hotel if you should not pay for your flights beforehand. The purpose of visit is talking about your genuineness, and you know what? That's a trick. When they're asking you to make a hotel booking, they're asking you to make a flight booking. They're not really asking you to do that. They're really asking for the proof. I tell my clients that why can't we be honest and say that we will do everything after you give me the visa, right? It's a deal. You give me the visa and I'll make a hotel booking. What's wrong in that? Making a hotel booking takes 5 minutes. I know where I'm going to stay. I know which airline I have to fly. But hey, I'm not probably inclined to make a hotel booking, to pay for my hotel, to pay for my flight before I get a confirmed visa. So really, it's up to you, right? That's your personal decision. This is not a legal opinion. This is not a legal suggestion. That's really up to you. But if I were you, I will not pay $1 for a hotel, $1 for a flight, or anything else before I get my visa, right? So purpose of travel is really your purpose of travel, and that is also super important. Along with letter of explanation, right? So you have to explain why you're coming to Canada. Now, if you've seen my yesterday's video, I said it already that there is a fine line between, well, you telling the truth 100% and you are telling the truth yet not 100%, right? So it's up to you. It's your personal life. It's your private life. You may not want to inform exactly why you are coming to Canada. For example, you're saying that I want to come to Canada for a visit, but hey, your purpose could be meeting employers, right? Your purpose could be looking forward to selling your job offers. That's your personal life. That's not illegal, but that doesn't mean that you have to state everything in the purpose of letter. But hey, also understand that do not write that you want to come to Canada to visit, to see Niagara Falls. Just remove Niagara Falls from your travel plan for 99% of the times that people write that I want to come to Canada to see Niagara Falls. Well, you can go to US to see Niagara Falls as well. And that's the suspicion in the office's mind. And this is, I will be very, very specific. The client from India, the client from Bangladesh, and these two countries I have seen, at least in my experience, they write Niagara Falls the most. Do not write Niagara Falls. Maybe you are coming to Canada just to visit the country and write a nice purpose of visit letter. If you need professional assistance, let me know. So that's the purpose of visit part. Make sure you do it very, very judiciously. You do it very, very well. This is being read by the officer, and I cannot really emphasize the importance of a very well-made purpose of visit letter. How much is being appreciated, right? So if you're doing it on your own, you will get what is called purpose of visit. If you're working with a licensed professional, the person will get a section of letter of explanation, and then everything comes in the letter of explanation / submission letter. What is a letter of explanation, or what is a submission letter? Letter of explanation is something when you are explaining everything to the officer, whatever you think should be explained in a form of a perfect letter. Understand something. The letter is something that should prove that you will leave Canada at the end of the stay. Section 179 of the IRPR. That is something that your letter of explanation should tell you. It's not right. It should not talk a lot about you, because it should talk about you, but not a lot about you. So there is a fine line between what it say, what it doesn't say. It's very important that you understand how to write a perfect letter of explanation. Again, if you need professional assistance, let me know. This is super important. So when I represent my clients, I write the submission letter. I do not get a specific section called letter of explanation. The submission letter or the purpose of visit and everything comes in one place. In this client's case as well, I wrote a superbly strong submission letter. My client did not have to pay a single dollar for the hotel. My client did not have to pay for a single dollar for the flight. Yet he got a visa decision in the 4th day. Now, in your case, it could be 40th day. It does not really matter. You should not have your travel plan that sooner after getting the visa. It is a good idea to check the IRCC processing time. As for India, since I'm making this video for India, I believe it is 93 days as of now, and it's not 93 business days, it's 93 calendar days, and it starts after you get your biometrics done. And it does not change. For example, what I mean by that is, for example, if you get your biometrics done today, the processing time starts from tomorrow, and you are still entitled to get the decision within 93 days. What if on this Tuesday, when it's being updated, due to Ukraine crisis or whatever, it gets updated to maybe 193 days? Yet your decision should be processed within 93 days, ideally, because the calculation is backward. So when you say 93 days, when you see 93 days, the officers are telling you is that the last application from India, last completed application from India was processed within 93 days. So that's what the decision time is. But how it really works practically, so why somebody has to wait for 93 days or maybe 193 days, and why somebody gets a decision in 3 days? Couple of things. Make sure you submit a completed application. Now, I cannot stress it enough, a completed application, because these days the officers are not reviewing the application from day one. A digital analytics system called Shanok is really reviewing the application, and if there are one box missing in the checkbox, that really takes the back step, and who knows what happens to them. So make sure that the application is complete. Make sure that if you're working with a licensed representative, make sure that the submission letter goes in the letterhead of this licensed representative. This is important. This is important because when somebody licensed, somebody legally allowed to represent you is writing the letter for you, that really enhances the, I would say, the effectiveness or the credibility of the letter. But if you're doing it on your own, not to worry, write a separate purpose of travel document and write a separate explanation letter. Make sure you understand what section 179 is and write it accordingly. Do not write like, I love my country, hence I will go back to India. I am a traditional Indian, I belong to a traditional Indian family, I will go back to India, and those kind of things. It has to be materialistic, it has to be logical. And if all is done properly, I don't have any reason to believe that your application will be rejected, because the officers are there to not to reject your application, but to process your application. So to get the decision faster, and obviously there is no guarantee on anything, but to get the decision faster, make sure you do submit a completed application with a super strong letter of explanation or submission letter and a purpose of visit. And for 99% of you, do not really have to spend money on hotel booking or air ticket before you get the decision, right? So that's about that. Questions. I'm from Adu from Accra, Ghana. I really like all your contents. You are my favorite. I appreciate that, Mr. Lee. Really appreciate that. I see. Question is, for instance, if someone booked for hotel reservation and she got the arrival for the visa, can the person change the hotel or still has to maintain the same hotel bookings he or she used for the? It's a very good question, Mr. Lee. So if you have submitted your application with the hotel booking, do not really have to change it. Do not change it. Do not submit unnecessary web forms, please, because if you submit one web form, your application will be delayed, I could tell you. This is how these guys work. The working style in Canada is very different. They do not want to work with clutter, if I will. And I'm telling this very, very, maybe in a very, very crude manner, but please kindly understand that when you submit an application, just do not do anything with it. Do not send web forms, do not make any changes, do not submit additional documents unless requested. So if you have submitted your application along with hotel bookings, it's a good idea not to change anything on that application, right? If I were your consultant or if I were your decision maker, I would not have asked you to submit your file with the hotel booking, but obviously you've done it. Do not do anything with it. Let it be. For example, if you have given a hotel booking for today and you still not have got the visa, the officer understands it, right? The success or the failure of an application does not really depend on that. It depends on how your application is. But your question is that, and I would really request you not to do anything with that, because if you make a single change in that application, send a web form or something like that, it is only going to get delayed, and you don't want that. I hope this helps. Then Mr. Suraj Kumar, I'm a call center executive working in India for a UK client. Can I move to Canada with EIP? I'm a +2 qualified and 36-year-old. What is the probability of me coming to Canada as a visitor for job hunt? I mean, probability of success. See, Suraj, the problem is call center is something that is not really recognized in Canada. You have to understand that, because this is a very expensive country, and you know it by now. If you're working for a UK client, that means the call center is something that has been outsourced to a sort of a nation where the labor cost or the resource cost is cheap, right? So which is why you are in India, but you're working for a client for the UK. So with your kind of background, I would imagine it's a customer care kind of a background. uh, Job hunt, again, it is very different. So there is no such thing called customer care. So nobody would really be interested to hire a quote unquote customer care executive from outside Canada if the person doesn't have a legal status yet. uh, you never know, right? It just happens for somebody. So if you're coming here, make sure you have a visit visa. See, it's always a good idea, Suraj, to have a visit visa in place, right? Because then you have the flexibility to come to Canada anytime. So that's that. While coming to Canada, make sure to change your CV in the Canadian standard and to ensure that you are talking in a manner that is being appreciated in Canada, that is being understood in Canada. Call center as a term doesn't exist in Canada, but what if you mention a customer relationships executive, customer care executive? So these are the terms. So you really have to align your profile that you're doing in India with how things are done in Canada, and then you have to see the kind of employers, if there are any employers that are hiring candidates through AP. And I could tell you from experiences that there have been many cases where the people are not employers are not designated, but they like a profile so much that they do not take they do not mind to take the hassle of being designated. And it's not really a hassle for all my clients that work with me. There have been some cases where I help the employer to get designated. So make sure you do, if you do not have a visit visa, make sure you get your visit visa first. That is a day one. I am assuming you're from India, obviously. The decision making time really varies from India depending on which parts of India you're from. Make sure you do your application on time. Make sure to change your CV to the Canadian standard, and you have to do a little bit of research. And it may also be a good idea not to depend on AIP only. Have to maybe what's wrong with the RNIP, like Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, because if you're coming to Toronto, you may want to go to Sudbury, visit that place, see how it is, meet a couple of employees if that opportunity exists, and then going to East, right? For example, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, or PEI. This is a good time for you, Suraj, to do the application if you haven't done it as of now, because we're in the March. So if you submit your application in the end of March or April, you'll probably get a decision by May or June, I believe, or if you're lucky, then within 3 days, who knows. But in the summer, then you'll be able to meet here, come here and meet the employees. And this is a good opportunity from you, because if it's like a winter, like a peak of the winter, like January, February, I wouldn't have asked you to come. Like I had consulted one time from Delhi a couple of weeks back, and the person wanted to come here in March. I asked him to come here in April or May, because March, and then he wanted to go to Atlantic provinces to search for employer. What people do not understand, those who are coming from outside Canada, is that it's not only about cold, the East. I mean, the Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick, and get the snowstorms as well. So if there is a massive snowstorm, then entire city or the town or the province will be closed for a few days. So you do not want to waste time in the snowstorm on everything. You are at a perfect place. It's summer, no harm in trying. Sending resumes from outside Canada for AIP doesn't really work. It did work for a few clients, but that's like 1 in a million, I would say, right? So that's not good. Coming to Canada, meeting employees in summer, and you'll see a lot of hiring signs in summer anyways. Make sure you do the due diligence, change your CV, and and obviously apply for a visit visa, and see the country if you have not been to country, Canada as of yet. See the country, see like a province or two. See which part do you like the most. Maybe you want to go to Vancouver, or you want to go to Toronto. But if you're talking about AIPP or AIP now, obviously you have to go to the eastern part of Canada, maybe New Brunswick. New Brunswick is my personal favorite, and then Nova Scotia. I like New Brunswick because of its cost of living. I have been to all these provinces. I like New Brunswick because of its cost of living, and it's very close to ocean now, or the Bay of Fundy. Now, Nova Scotia is close to ocean as well, but I found it a little bit more congested, at least the urban areas such as Halifax. So I liked St. John or Fredericton or Moncton over the towns in like Sydney, or I would say Halifax. But again, it's not really dependent on how I like a town. It's about how you like it. So it may be a good idea to visit a couple of towns there and see how it goes, and make sure to do the visit application on time. So I believe that's that. I try to provide as much information as possible. I do not think I am missing out on anything. Yep, no, I'm not missing out on anything. Uh, Strong application, strong application, strong application. Always ensure, even if you're working with a licensed professional, even if you're working with a licensed lawyer or doing on your own, we should always apply for our, our common sense, our logical bent of mind. Even if you're working with me, I brainstorm with my clients, right? I do not tell you to just follow me blindly. Ask me questions, ask me difficult questions, and you should always do that if you're working with somebody. And sorry, I missed somebody, Mr. Oyebola. I am watching from Nigeria. I really appreciate that. I get a lot of consultations from Nigeria, from Ghana, the most from Ghana, followed by Nigeria, country code 233 and 234. I get so many emails that I could remember the country codes. Awesome people, very good English, very hardworking people. And the problem with the Nigerian, the country is that there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of fraudulent consultant, a lot of fraudulent immigration, not licensed, obviously, not local. Maybe that my experience, Mr. Oyebola. Maybe you're able to correct me. But clients that come to me, also I will be honest. Out of till now, I got 100% of my Nigerian clients with some kind of visa rejections, and I feel very bad about them because they are really honest people. They're really genuine clients. They are just not being handled properly. Their applications have just not been handled properly, like the way it should have been handled, because of some fraudulent, consultants. That they are not even consultant. They call themselves the agent of government of Canada and whatnot. Obviously, it is a fraud, but obviously not everybody understands or get to understand, or sometimes in the first experience, how to differentiate good from the bad, and bad apples are there everywhere. I'm not really saying that Canada is good. Uh, like there are bad apples there as well. But I see the people of Nigeria suffering a lot because of fraudulent consultants. So if your objective is to apply for a visit visa, make sure if you're doing it on your own, make sure please you do it correctly. Or if you're working with somebody licensed, or if you're working with somebody, make sure that the person is licensed. Not talking about the trade license in Canada, I'm talking about the immigration license. Ask for the license number, and if somebody is licensed, the person should display the license number on the website itself. Do your due diligence, do your verification, you should be all right. Mr. Lee is saying, I was asking, after the person received an approval from IRCC, can he or she go? Oh, you can do anything. After you get like an approval from IRCC, you may not even want to come to Canada, or you can go to anything. So whatever whatever you're provided there, you understand that there is a difference between your intention and your actual deed. Meaning that you intended to stay in Hilton Niagara Falls, for example, but you ended up staying in Marriott Niagara Falls, for example. It could happen, right? No worry, you still have to maintain the same. No. You can. If you got your approval from IRCC, you just have to come to Canada if you want to come to Canada. You can stay anywhere, go to anywhere, any province. My apologies for the misunderstanding. I understood it differently. So that's that. I will leave you there, guys. It's already, I believe, 12 o'clock here. What's the time? It's already, it's past 12. I will leave you there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for asking questions. I hope you find it useful, even if you're watching this in a recorded manner. Make sure to do the application correctly. It's not about me. It's not about anybody. Make sure that you do not get an impression that if you come to somebody, if you come to me, or if you go to anybody licensed, that person is going to prioritize the application. If a decision comes in 3 days, that doesn't mean that all the decisions will be 3 days. The point here is, for a well-made application, the decision time sometimes get influenced, or I would say most of the time gets influenced. And that is because the offices are in huge backlogs, right? They're in massive backlogs. So whenever they see a completed application, whenever they see a completed file, it's for their interest to approve the file and next. So it's the attitude of problem solving, right? It's the attitude of problem solving. I'll tell you how it works. So for example, like me, for example, if I have to solve a math question paper, I'll probably start from the easiest to the hardest, right? This is exactly how these guys work. Easiest applications are the easiest to approve applications, easiest to make a decision applications are the ones that are complete. All the documents completed, everything is there. There is a strong letter of explanation, there is a strong submission letter. Why should I reject the application, or why should I delay the file? Most importantly, the problem happens when it is not complete, and sometimes people do not understand that the difference between a completed and a well completed or incomplete application, if you will. right? So I get one more question here. Mr. Catherine, hello, sir. You have made a video on the latest IRCC extension. Have you made a video on the latest IRCC extension of visitors visa or being able to change to work permit within Canada? I will address the second part later. Being able to change work permit while being in Canada, you have to understand that you get to have a job first. So that is first. If you get a job offer, then there are a lot of options to choose from. You may not really have to change your visitor status into a work permit status. If you get the job offer under AIP, you can directly apply for your PR and meanwhile a work permit. Changing a visitor to to work permit means you're talking about flag polling. If you do not understand what a flag polling is, means that you have to leave Canadian border and you have to go to the US. Obviously, you do not enter US. You again come back and apply for your work permit. So leaving the Canadian border and then coming back to the Canadian border. It's easier said than done. It's not that easy. So changing the status sounds all right. It sounds good, but that's not really something that is for everybody. So while being in Canada, changing to work permit, yes, I made a video. I said how to get a work permit from outside Canada, but I did not really talk about the changing status because trust me, it's not easy. If you get a job offer, if you need my help, come for a consultation. My charges are very reasonable. I will consult you, will look into all your options and let you know what you should do. Do not just think that changing from visitor to work permit is easy. I can tell you is one of the most difficult thing to do. Now, have you made a video on IRCC extension of the visitor's visa? Well, IRCC extends the visitor visa if you have a genuine reason, right? So there are cases where they extend, there are cases where they do not extend. So it's not by default. And obviously, if you're a citizen of Ukraine, then it will be extended by default. But from your name, I could figure out that I could say that you're probably coming from somewhere in Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong. But for you really have to have a genuine reason and have to prove that you will leave Canada after your extension has been granted. So you have to submit an application well before your visit visa. The maximum period of stay for your visit visa is over, right? So it really depends on your case to case. All right, guys, I'll leave you there. I wish you a very Saturday morning, evening, afternoon, like whichever part of the world you are watching this from. If I remember it correctly, Atlantic Immigration Program is going to be formally converted into a permanent program starting tomorrow. I have a couple of consultations scheduled in the morning. I will see if I get a time. If I get some free time, I'll try to make a video on that topic. That is super interesting. Atlantic Immigration Pilot from tomorrow, EST, will be a full-time permanent program. If I remember the date correctly, I think it was March 7 that was mentioned, which is amazing. So I'll talk about it later. I'll just leave it here. I wish you guys a very good evening. And yes, you're from Kenya. I know it. I work with a lot of Kenyans. The name and the surname combination is something that I'm very familiar of. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next live stream maybe, and have a good evening. Peace. Bye.